Then try a new one today. Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Top of Wrestling podcast. You know, been beating myself up for about maybe 5 minutes here, figuring out just to say how to figure out how to say hello because it's been a couple of weeks. We've been away, and we do apologize. We know you missed us, and we missed you right back, and we are excited to talk about the top of wrestling, which means we're not talking about pretty much anything that's going on nowadays because not much going on. This is Professor Rex Youngblood. Welcome back. If you're listening on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Podbean, whatever it may be, we appreciate you being here. And I even feel much better than I did 2 weeks ago. Today I could breathe out of my nose. I won't be blowing my face in the middle of this show, so I'm ready to go. And, of course, the man by my side, public enemy number one, here's O.D.M.
What I'd like to have right now is for all you infected, out of shape, coronavirus sweat hogs, keep the coughing down while I take my robe off and show the ladies what a real sexy man looks like. Hit the music.
Oh, the ravishing one. And if you didn't say it, damn it, I would have had to have said it for you for the hit the music, but you know that's the way to go.
That's the only way to go.
God. You know, it's funny because just not too, I think it was just a couple days ago, maybe about a week ago. I don't know, man. Time is just in a circle now, but someone just posted a video, and it was a back-to-back snap, or a back-to-back video setup of how Rude was on Raw and Nitro the same night, and I still remember that. And it was because then you were trying to figure out, okay, who's taped, who's not live right now.
It's funny that you say that because today on Twitter, I believe today is the anniversary of when he injured his back against Sting in Japan.
And that's pretty much where the end of his career was right there.
That was the end right there, yep.
Was that the last match, or did he
kind of
work through?
No,
okay, I didn't know if he worked through a couple
match.
of. Man, that's a shame. He was one of the very first heels I remember. I liked him, and I'm like, dude has the physique. I mean, like, you can't not like him. You know what I mean?
The tights.
I'm like, he's such a prick. I hated him because he was against all of my favorites, and he was always putting their things on their tights, especially Jake Roberts' wife, which is something that Velveteen has kind of done a little bit of a throwback to, if you will, a little bit. But, oh, man, I love Ravishing Rick Rude. I actually like to watch some of his matches every now and then, and there's a rare thing. I'm not sure if we've talked about it on this show or if I just talked about it with someone on the side, but if you haven't, you should look up on YouTube. It was, I think, a Thunder taping or something like that, and the announcer backstage, I don't know if it was Iron Mike Tenay, it could have been, but he is interviewing Kurt Hennig, and it is just fresh after Rick Rude passed, and they start asking him questions, just like, hey, what's going on with the Horsemen and the NWO and the Wolfpack, blah, 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 and they go, just a quick side part of this, the passing of Rick Rude, and it looked like no one prepped him and said, hey, we are going to ask you about it. It threw him for a loop. It's perfect. It's a talker. You know what I mean? Like, that's no problem. That's all. He can do anything he wants to on the mic. Doesn't even have to prep. Stumbles his words. Looks like he's starting to cry, but he gets real pissed off and saying about how some people kind of showed their true colors by not showing up to the funeral and stuff like that. So, very controversial for all of the whole thing for him, but very sad that he's gone. But I love that you opened up with that. So, nice. Yeah, especially all you coronavirus-wearing sweat hogs. Well, I know you missed me, man. I missed you. It was a long couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was weird.
To each other.
It was weird.
But it probably felt good that you didn't have to hear me after that couple of weeks. You had to get that nasal
sound. The nasal sound, yeah. I didn't even listen to that episode.
I didn't either. I barely edited it. I just kind of hit one thing and kind of let it go, and I was like, yeah, we're good enough. But what's ahead of today? We're going to do our normal routine. We're going to go through all the normal stuff when we talk about our news. We talk about Wednesday Night Wars, but today's top topic is going to be That's right, we're going back to our roots. We're getting back to ranking things, where the professor throws in all of his expertise and ODM corrects him. We are talking about today's top 50 WCW matches. I started to figure out when we wanted to do this. I wanted to have NWA involved in it, but these matches are all from post October 1988, I believe, because that is when Jim Crockett and WCW kind of made that split. Ted Turner ended up creating WCW and all the good things that followed, like the Dungeon of Doom. That's another good thing, man. You should watch that. Something else I just saw is
I've watched
go
it.
back and did you watch Kevin Sullivan shaving Hulk Hogan's mustache?
Oh my God, that was so great, dude. He was not he was not gentle with that shit either, man. He went to town.
But let me ask you this question: have you ever seen a shaving ever go better? That's the only one that when they put the clippers to someone's head. It's so every time they do it, I cringe. I go, it's going to go bad, and then you're going to start pulling chunks out of the hair. They're going to start bleeding. We've seen it. One of them, I feel like they had to come back an hour later to show the guy was completely shaved. They always start with battery ones, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, my battery one always dies before I even, get one sideburn done.
Right.
That's right, I got burns. No, but yeah, so we're going to talk WCW matches today. Very excited about that. That was a tough ranking thing to go through because there's so many really good matches. They get shit on for how they ended and everything, and your Attitude Era years. But
you can blame Russo.
Sure, absolutely, and you need to, because prior to all of that, man, we're talking 88 to 1994. We have some amazing matches that we will be talking about today. But first, let's bring it in. News with ODM. What do we got, man?
We'll get caught up a little bit and blow through these. The first one I'm sure we're going to pass by really quick. Cain Velasquez, released by WWE. I don't think anybody cares. So.
You know what bothers me?
What's that?
Is that he wasn't released at the same time as all those other people.
No.
And I'm like, wait, this guy had a match?
Yeah.
And you let all those other people go before him? Okay, all right, fine. Just want to catch up to speed. All right.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense, but that's how Vince is, right?
Logic.
Logic. I don't know if you saw the Being the Elite episode from a couple weeks ago, but Revival's arrival, or if you want to say the Revolt's arrival in AEW, was teased on Being the Elite. Matt and Nick Jackson talking at the end of the episode, look up in the sky, and the clouds spell out FTR. Could just be a tease. Maybe it's a one-off. Do they sign?
No, I don't know, man. I think they are 100% at this moment, the way things are going. I think their best buzz opportunity is probably going to end up being AEW. Maybe they could be the thing that's going to revive, not to be, not to, no pun intended, to be honest with you. Really, really to revive a good tag team division. Or not good tag team division, make a good tag team division possibly. Exactly. Get rid of the dinosaur. Not get rid of him. I like him. I actually just wish he would just drop that gimmick.
Yeah.
You know what I'd really like him to do? Go full Cass. Just knock out Marco Stunt in Jungle Boy and then just become a badass guy. He's huge. He could do some work.
Sure.
We'll talk about AEW coming up soon, but yeah, no kidding. All right. So I think Revival probably there. I wanted NWA when we talked about it a couple weeks ago when we started debating where everybody was going to go to, especially with Nightwing Analyst. I got to be honest with you, I'm thinking more AEW than ever.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way, or at least for a one-off. I would think at this point they're going to show up at Double or Nothing. That would be my thought. Why not? They're free.
Are they 100% free contracts?
Yeah,
right
they're
now?
done. They're ready. Actually, maybe it was May 6th.
Okay.
But they're ready. They're ready. So
wait, now speaking of it, let's just talk about that. They do have their pay-per-view, their event coming up. I hate saying pay-per-view because everything's done on streaming devices nowadays. But Double or Nothing is happening when again? It's I think like second or third week in May. are we doing this in front of a crowd, or is this going to be crowdless, of course, as well?
I think it's at the end of the month, and a lot of places are starting. I mean, listen, I'll loop into another piece of news. As of the time of this recording, Florida is going to start letting fans into events. So
which is funny because in the state that I'm in and in the state that you're in, they just extended everything even further. So
sure.
It's funny how certain states are, I guess, reacting. But if you can get into certain places and go with it. Yeah.
Remember, they just got that nice little donation from Linda McMahon's Super PAC. So I'm sure that plays into it to some extent.
It's funny you talk about with that, and I hate to jump into your news. I don't even know if you have this a part of your news, but. You talk about Double or Nothing, and okay, so we'll get into AEW and what their plans are, but can we please, because we all know we're not going to dive into any SmackDown or Raw shit because it just hasn't been worth even reading about, but can we please talk about what has recently come out about the men's and women's Money in the Bank ladder match? Did we not fucking call something technically like this?
You called it. You said it.
But
said
I
it was
didn't
NXT.
say it was both.
You said it was NXT in the men's, is what you said. But still, that's pretty goddamn close.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And I said they're gonna pass by each other and they're gonna have looks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! We have to start reposting that. Everybody, right now, retweet that out. Holy shit!
I am even more on board now. It's gonna be a shit show. It's gonna be terrible, and I'm gonna love every minute of it.
You know what?
It's watching a bad movie that you know is going to be bad. You have such low expectations, right? Like, you have to go out of the way to make it, like, not enjoyable at that point.
And that's this Sunday. That is this
I know,
Sunday.
right?
So,
and I don't give a shit.
But you know what? Just because we don't give a shit, how about you and we make our own personal, we'll maybe even live tweet during the middle of this, and we'll let people know what we're doing, but let's make our own personal drinking game out of this. Every time they pass by each other and give a weird look, you do a shot or you do a sip or whatever. Let's make fun of this. Have a good time of it, because to be honest with you, I have never more than ever not given a shit about Money in the Bank. Ever.
Yeah.
I don't even care. Even if you win, I'm going to always remember it is that you were doing it in the middle of a warehouse, basically, and you had to go on the roof. Guess what's going to happen? You all don't know this. Brock Lesnar's just going to lower in off of a fucking helicopter after you guys all make it to the top, and he's just going to grab the title and go right up again. Ugh.
I already have one drinking rule, and you have to down a drink.
An entire drink? Jesus.
You have to down the whole drink if at any point they start playing Benny Hill music.
Why do I feel like it's not going to be like not even once? It's going to be like 3 times. It's going to be like every time it goes into the elevator, it fast forwards. Oh my no!
And parody music. Parody music counts too. Like if it's not the exact music, but even it's pretty close, like, and you can tell.
Even if it was like the WrestleMania theme, but like very Benny Hill theme types, like the piano. Oh wow, I'm kind of on board with this. I think I like this idea. I can't wait for Sunday. Oh, I am excited about Money in the Bank already. Look at that shit.
Yeah, right.
Who's in the Money in the Bank? Let's at least talk about that. I know the only guys I even know that I actually could care about personally, I just want to see grab it right away. And it would be a perfect time for them to ever make the Money in the Bank worth it again, because it has not been shit in years. Let's see. Corbin failed.
Moxley. Or Ambrose.
Okay,
that was
what
good.
Was that? 2016 maybe? 15? 16?
16, I think.
I would say your best person right now. I mean, was last year Brock Lesnar? Yeah, and look at the face of... And they held it from even the wrestlers. That's how bad that part was.
Braun's was horrible.
Yep.
Corbin was horrible.
Oh my God, I forgot about Braun's. How there was no winner in that Hell in a Cell as well. However, you're going to give it to somebody. Right now, I know that Daniel Bryan's involved. I think AJ Styles just recently got involved. He's back from the dead. I think if you're going to give it to anybody as a win, you have to give it to Aleister Black. Let us know that he is someone that you want to make a champ, but then you have to go through with it. And you know what he does? As much as I'm a giant fan of Drew McIntyre, But the thing is that I feel like it doesn't matter what's going on with Drew right now as a world champion. It just doesn't with everything that's going on TV. It really just doesn't. To me, maybe that's our opinion, but I think it's pretty solid across the board. But when you think of it, I think that have him do it pretty soon. I wouldn't have him do it like later in the night, but maybe, or just have him be that guy that's silent, never even talks about it. He just walks around with it or whatever, and then just comes out of nowhere. When Edge cashed his in, I almost forgot that he had the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Daniel Bryan was smart. He said, I'm cashing this in at WrestleMania, and then sideswiped everybody and got him at TLC. So I'd like to see Aleister really pull it and make it do it the right thing. I mean, the women's... It was cool in the one night when Bayley did it because that was huge. I actually popped for Bayley's, but the men's have been dog shit for a long time. So, yes, I'd like to see Aleister win it. But do you know anybody else that's a part of this Money in the Bank at all that's worth seeing here?
Apollo Crews was supposed to be in it, and apparently he has a knee injury. I don't know if that's kayfabe or not. Probably is. And it sounds like they're actually going to turn him heel. He's a great talent. His charisma is a little weird. I hope they can find something for him to do because he's got the talent. He's a good worker.
I agree with you that the charisma is weird, and I almost feel like if you took that guy and put him in the middle of, I always use the reference of a bar, but like let's say you put him in the middle of a bar and someone fucked with him, he's not that goofy dude. He's going to fuck you up. He's a big dude. I don't know if he's just a goofy guy in life or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like he's overacting, not overacting, or maybe over trying or trying to please whatever they're
always
telling him.
It's the aw shucks babyface syndrome.
Well, you know what else it is? Do a Southern draw. I'm from Rochester, New York. Do a Southern draw.
There's that
so basically,
too,
I mean, they're probably telling him what to do that's not natural. Kind of like Roman Reigns doing stupid shit on the mic that wasn't natural. We didn't care for. But I would like to see a heel turn with him. I actually would have loved to seen him and Titus, right? When that was Titus Worldwide with I would have loved to see them go straight hardcore heel. Not necessarily like thug gangster kind of heel, but I'm talking more of just like coming in, beating the shit out of everybody. No more having fun, anything like that. Coming in, beat some ass and leave. Kind of the revival way, right? You got to do something, man. And the best thing Titus has done in the last couple of years anyway was sliding under the ring at Greatest Royal Rumble and being the exact follow-up to the Firehouse Funhouse match.
Yep.
I forgot what did he say. Hey, I don't know what I just saw.
I don't know what to see.
So I mean, we'll see where it goes with Money in the Bank. Could be fun. Maybe
it's got to be
Aleister
Black. It's got to be Aleister Black. Andrade's in there too, I think.
In the women's, I think you want to make people happy. Probably, I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably going to be Asuka. Is Bianca Belair in this?
No, I don't think so.
So I'm going to go ahead and say Asuka.
I could be wrong. I just want to say that. So honestly,
that's how much it matters.
Yeah, it's tough, man. AEW and NXT, I can be a little more invested in. The problem is that the main roster isn't good enough. It's hard enough to watch it when everything is normal, let alone now.
True.
That's it. That's it right there.
Very much agree.
So anyway, WWE filed to oppose Cody Rhodes' trademarks. They did not oppose the trademark for Dusty Rhodes. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get Cody Rhodes back actually as a wrestler. But some of the other ones, I think like Slamboree, I forget the other ones, but WWE is opposing them.
I cannot tell you how much it bothers me that they really just won't let him use that name. But at the same point, it's not his real name. His real name is Cody Runnels. You know what I mean? It's not that. But come on, dude. It's a whole family lineage. You know what I mean? Like, if I was him, then I would do something so ridiculous that WWE hasn't trademarked, but is something that's so close to home. You know what I mean? Like something that's almost close to Undertaker or something like that, just to fuck with him. Be like, I can't have my name. I'm going to take something of yours. Because this is bullshit now. I have to just call him by one name. What is he, fucking Madonna? What is he, Sting?
Sting. Yeah.
Seal? All right.
I'm going to skip this one. So we talked about, and I think this is hilarious because I was looking back, and I kind of want to pull it up right now. But they talked to Cody Rhodes about a potential free agent signing. Would you like to know who that signee is?
I think he's been a part of a band.
Yeah, he has. Heath Slater. Cody says that AEW is not interested in signing Heath Slater. Now, we know that they're all jokesters, so this could just be misdirection. But, yeah, that is the scuttlebutt on that.
However, everybody that they have said we're not interested in, they haven't brought in.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I thought about it. I wouldn't mind seeing Slater show up in like a Ring of Honor, NWA. I think he'd do good there. He's just that skinny loudmouth guy that could be a perfect mid-card. He's never going to be your world champion unless you just give it to him for a one-night surprise kind of bullshit. But for the most part, no. I think he'll get swallowed up in AEW. There's nothing for him to do there. So, yeah, there's no reason for them to be interested in him right now. He could do better, I think, in NWA for sure.
Absolutely. Another release from WWE, Curtis Axel.
I hope he goes to AEW. I'm sorry, NWA. I'd like to see him in there too.
Hell yeah.
That's a shame. They never did anything with him. The only thing they ever did was they made him a Paul Heyman guy after he was Michael McGillicuddy for some reason. And then he, finally was Curtis Axel, and they paired him up with Heyman. Became the Intercontinental Champion, got buried by Triple H, and then CM Punk left and right during the whole Punk and Brock Lesnar feud, and then also Punk and I think Ryback. And then from there, we just never saw much of him. He was in the
B team.
B team. I want to say the Job Squad because it was basically that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man, I just, perfect timing for you to bring that up. I don't have it in news, and I won't have the exact sources to who he was talking to, but I did read an interview. Tama Tonga, actually, I could bring it up right here. I have a picture of it on my phone. Yeah, well, look at that. Technology. So, one thing that he said is this. Okay, Tama Tonga was interviewed saying about how is Japan's mindset versus America's mindset when it comes to providing wrestling entertainment right now. And he said, and in quotes here, it's saying, it's a different culture in Japan, a lot different from the quote-unquote, the show must go on mindset. The majority of our income does come from live shows, which has obviously been cut out, but the company has held on to the staff and reassured us that no one will be let go. The company is more of a family in Japan. New Japan does its best to look out for the entire wrestling scene in Japan. Even Tanahashi going in front of government, that may surprise people in wrestling, but it doesn't surprise us. He really is our leader. You can see that unity in our roster too. Our guys go from young to old. This isn't a factory of young guys that can just get chopped up and spit out. The mindset is completely different in Japan. And then you see here in WWE letting go of all of your guys that have been so goddamn. That's always I said over and over and over in the last episode was loyalty. You had guys who were there for years, and you just let them all go. We don't care. And that's, you just said, chop them up and spit them out. That's exactly what they're doing to them. So I agree with Tama Tonga, and I think that Japan obviously sees a different picture, or at least maybe the bigger picture, I guess, that you don't have to, the show doesn't have to go on right now, because guess what? We're not watching. The show really doesn't have to go on right now.
Yep. No disagreements here.
And that's all I got to say about that.
I'll fly through a couple ones here. WWE filed, more trademark news, WWE filed to oppose Revival's trademarks. Say yeah. Shatter Machine, Top Guys, No Flips, Just Fists, and FTRKO. So, no big surprise there. Something I think you'll appreciate, or if maybe not, I don't know. I'm interested to see how you feel about this. Shawn Spears received permission from Bret Hart to use a sharpshooter, which he did on this past AEW Dynamite.
I find that, I don't know, I find it weird that you have to even get permission, because that's also Sting's.
Well,
said,
yes.
Can I use it? But that's Sting's Scorpion Deathlock. That's like also.
Yep.
That's like Miz asking Flair, can I use the figure four when everybody has done it for years as just a certain thing. It's not like just because he turned it into that. So do you have to ask Jake Roberts every time you want to do a fucking DDT?
Yeah, that's a good call, man.
I'm just saying, I think it's weird.
It's
now,
more
however,
unique.
if they are calling it the sharpshooter, then yes, I think it's okay.
Okay, there you go.
he was the one that had it called the sharpshooter.
Sure.
Sting's was the Scorpion Deathlock.
Deathlock, right. Which,
but that's no different than, kind of a semi-Texas Cloverleaf is the Walls of Jericho, or Jericho is a Boston Crab. You know what I mean? Same kind of thing. But if you're going to call it sharpshooter, then okay, I'm okay with that in a tribute. But if it's just to do the move and they end up calling it like the Spears Rack, some shit like that, or whatever, you know what I mean? Then it was stupid that he had to get permission.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Jimmy Uso's out for 6 to 9 months with a knee injury. It's undisclosed at this time, but big surprise, one of them is hurt or something happened. It's like the Usos come back on TV for 3 months and then they're gone again. So I don't know, man.
Is he the one that did he fight at WrestleMania, or did the other brother? That sounds kind of bad.
I think Jimmy. I think Jimmy fought at Mania.
It was in the latter. Okay.
I think I could be wrong. I don't know. All right. Excuse me. One last piece of news, and this is all conjecture, but it's an interesting talking point. Dutch Mantel claims that Dutch Mantel, who does not work for WWE at the moment, claims that WWE is in negotiations to sell the company with Fox and ESPN.
I think, nah.
Yeah,
I'm WWE's going to deny it. They're going to say, for a man who doesn't work with the company, where would he get those allegations? Well, only people who know in the company, yada, yada. There's no way he's out. No.
It's interesting, though. It'd be an interesting, because what happens? Because do they do a WCW where they put somebody in charge that has no idea about wrestling? Or do they say, Triple H, you seem to have a good handle on things, you run everything?
I don't know. At this point, I really just, what are they making? Like $40 a year? No one's paying attention to anything.
Yeah.
Really. But I don't know. I just,
people do pay attention.
If they sold, I would be completely shocked.
I would be too.
Crazy, but I don't think they will.
I'm with you.
They have way too much going on. I don't like with that NXT, everything. There's no way that you're going to sell it all to Fox, because if you get a massive upswing, there's no way that WWE and Vince and all those guys are going to be like, yeah, we'll just let it run away without us being there. There's no way. That's nah. There might be a rumor that Dutch heard.
Oh,
you know what I mean? But that's it. Hey, I don't think that anything more than that.
There you go.
So, I mean, we that's the thing. We're talking about they have NXT, especially if you're going up against AEW. They're not just going to give up against, in the first half a year or whatever. So, shit, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what we have with Wednesdays.
Wednesday Night Wars!
Okay, yeah, I guess I can talk. I don't know why I just...
Well, no, I thought you were just pausing.
No, that was whatever. I don't know what it did, but Jesus. Oh, that was a good show.
I'm going to need a drink for this one.
Woo! All right, so we were away for a couple of weeks, so we're not going to go over all the results. Let's just talk about what's going on, because we do know that we're heading towards... obviously, there's no real pay-per-views going on with NXT right now. Anything that we're aiming for, I don't believe.
No, everything that they were going to do for pay-per-views they've done on the show, and that's going to continue next week, where Dream will take on Adam Cole and Io Shirai will take on Charlotte Flair for the titles. So
with all that said, they're not really gearing towards a whole lot, but AEW is gearing towards Double or Nothing. I'm already kind of. Can I bitch early, or do you want to just kind of talk about what's been going on storyline wise, and then I can bitch, or do you want to just kind of dive in?
Let me give you some numbers. We'll start with AEW. I'll go in an order that I think will save the thing you want to bitch about for last.
I'm sure you already know.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So April 22nd.
How in the fuck do you not let Darby Allin go to the motherfucking finals?
All right, here's the thing with that. I knew
Is that what you thought it was?
We knew. Oh, it's absolutely. Of course it was. Listen, it doesn't surprise me that this is the route they took. I'm not crazy about it, okay? But of all things, the ending to that match, which was good, that was a great match. Until the ending, Cody almost killed himself trying to do a coffin drop. Darby saved him. Like, watch it again. Darby saved
Oh, yeah.
Cody.
No, I watched.
Big
I
time.
rewound it. I go, oh, that was kind of, that was pretty close.
And then the ending, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Austin versus Owen for the IC title.
When he had the broken,
where he had to like
probably
crawl half dead, touch his leg to do a roll up that Owen just laid into. That's what that ending reminded me of.
You know, all right, here's my biggest bitch, okay? My biggest complaint. They were already gearing towards Lance Archer and Cody.
Yep.
You didn't need the title, man. That could have just been an all-out fucking grudge match.
Exactly.
At that pay-per-view, and it could have been so cool. And you could have had Darby versus Dustin. You could have had Darby. I don't give a shit. There's so many options you could have done, man. I'm just saying that it was just anything but what we're aiming towards. This, to me, I'm sorry, Cody putting himself in there, this is no different than what's going on in WWE, except now you're in charge, dickhead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to say that. That bothers me because Darby is over like Rover, as they say. And how was he not in the goddamn finals? I don't care if he lost in the finals, but he should have been in the fucking finals.
If you want to fantasy book this, like you said, here's the way to do it, right? Cody can put over Darby. It just would have been great. Or you could have had Archer interfere and gave Darby the win.
That. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then guess what? Then you have Archer beat the ever-living shit out of Dustin like he did, which I thought that was a good match. And then when it's Darby versus Archer, Darby's getting the shit kicked out of him, and Cody fucks him over. Darby gets the title, and you keep that feud going. This is not rocket science.
No. It's called logical.
It's called storytelling.
You have to throw logic out the fucking window, apparently, when it comes to wrestling. I've been really upset about that, man. I've been waiting. I'm sorry. I won't even talk about any more Wednesday Night Wars. You please give me what's been going on. Give me some numbers.
Right. All right. So the numbers. April 22nd, AEW won again, 731 to 665. This past week, April 29th, AEW 693, NXT 637, 693 to 637. I think the no arena things are starting to catch up with people, but let's go through AEW real quick. The Bubbly Bunch, the Manitoba Melee. Oh my God. And the greatest thing is I'm watching this. All right. The Manitoba Melee. And Jericho's talking on the phone, and they do this camera cut to, it was like a shake. No, it was a Thigh Master. There was a Thigh Master just on the floor. And while Jericho's talking on the phone, like FaceTiming the rest of the inner circle, they just do this weird camera cut to this Thigh Master and then back to him. And in my head, I'm like, bro, that's a Kevin Smith cut. Like, that's straight out of Clerks.
Straight out I was going to say, like, mall rat stuff. Yep,
just
absolutely.
The cut. I'm like, that's Kevin Smith. And sure as shit, 60 seconds later, Jay and Silent Bob.
Yep.
I'm like, wow. Okay, well, that explains that.
Hey, but they were at the very first show, if you remember. They were in the front row.
I do, yes.
I thought that was the very first thing I saw, and I go, that's how huge this is. They're front row tonight.
That's awesome.
And which is also a big fuck you to WWE because they wouldn't let Jay and Silent Bob like show up at one of their places or something like that and get some airtime or whatever. So AEW's like, oh yeah, come on over.
I think they're buddies with Jericho, but
that too, yeah.
Vicky was the best one. Are you serious? Are you serious? Oh, man.
Dude,
I loved it. At first, I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? This is so stupid. And then halfway through, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with it.
I'm liking the at-home creative style. I'd rather see people just cut promos and shit like that for every show, man. Or WWE could do the same thing with Raw, SmackDown, everything. Don't wrestle in front of nobody. It just looks, sounds, and feels weird. The Bubbly Bunch is the most probably entertaining thing going on in wrestling right now. I would actually say
hilarious.
There's not one more thing that is more entertaining in wrestling right now than that.
Yeah, and again, it's Jericho. Jericho's the GOAT. Always. It's hard to argue that. Moxley is actually set to be live on Dynamite this week, so that's going to be interesting. And again, you want to talk about just doing the promos. Moxley's promos, he's fantastic. You can't beat it. We've talked about the TV title. Obviously, we're going to have Archer versus Cody for the TV title at Double or Nothing. I call it the TV title. It's the TNT Championship, whatever.
Sure, same.
Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc are forming a tag team. It's an interesting pairing. I like Kip Sabian. I'm not too sold on Jimmy Havoc. I'd rather see Sabian just have a run at the mid-card title, and Havoc can be your AEW dark guy. But
I'm okay with at least a little bit of a stable. I mean, it's progress. It's something. It's giving me those guys on TV because I was wondering where Havoc was for a long time. Even Kip Sabian, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of guys just went away for a while, and all you kept seeing was just Inner Circle, Moxley, Cody, Dustin. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
And Adam Page. No, I definitely agree with you, though. 100%.
Britt Baker has had some promos which have been golden.
They're getting better.
It's so funny because I remember that first week, and I remember thinking, wow, she is terrible at this.
Remember, I said take the mic away from her. Don't ever do this again. Don't ever give her airtime. And now I'm like, she's not bad.
Yeah, the next week she was really improved. Like, I'm wondering, I hate to say this, and listen, don't get me wrong, this is not a sexist thing. This is a talent level thing. Okay, it's almost like Adam Cole was like, okay, well, I graded your presentation. These are all the areas you failed in. Work on this. Because Adam Cole is more experienced. That's not a debatable fact,
Absolutely.
But she's been great. They did the one promo with her assistant or wherever, and she's demeaning. Oh my God. It's great stuff.
Well, and if you haven't caught it, there is their show that they promote, Unsanctioned, which is their podcast, and it has Tony Schiavone and Aubrey Edwards. It's their podcast,
Yep.
And I sent the link over to you of
Yep.
Dustin talking about how he has a weekly class with all the ladies. And he urges ladies to come to it and stuff, and he even on there he goes, and Britt has improved tremendously. He's like in promos because he's working. So I think working a little bit with him as well, a little bit of because look at where he comes from. That's you want to talk about someone that doesn't need a script. You know what I mean? So the whole telling it from the heart. She's working with some really good people. The Jericho, Dustin, but of course, of course, you have your Bay. See what I did there?
New T-shirt idea, Bay.
Yeah.
Or I'm your Bay.
Ooh, coined.
Patent pending.
So the only other thing that I think is well worth anything, even between Dynamite and NXT, is the unfortunate injuries of one Maxwell Jacob Friedman. When I first read, it said that he had an injury, and I first saw it on a wrestling website. It was before I had the opportunity to actually watch these promos. I was like, wait, when did he get injured? When the fuck did he even wrestle? Are you serious? And as I start reading it, I go, oh,
it was in the dice game
awesome.
With Sean Spears or whatever.
Yep. Tremendous. Love that they went with that.
So great. And here's the thing, and I had a hard time telling. On last week's Dynamite, I think it was, he was cutting the promo, and he appeared to be in his house with a little shelf behind him with, maybe a candle and a picture. I couldn't tell if the picture was of MJF, which it likely was, or if it was of EC3. Because they've been having a Twitter beef lately, and it's fucking hilarious. EC3 has put out video promos on MJF. It is fantastic.
I'll have to go back and see that. I did not catch that the picture.
It was
may
probably
have
just
like
MJF,
him.
But for a second, my mind was playing tricks on me. I'm like, bro, did he put a picture of EC3 behind him? Because if he did, that's fucking baller.
I love that, though. That would be great if he did. I love a good inside rib that if people can or maybe not catch it.
Hell yeah. AEW is all about that. They're all for the smart marks. I want to run through NXT real quick, okay? Yeah, I know you said there's nothing. Anybody listening, Professor, I'm a huge fan of NXT. I love what they're doing. They've got a great product. They've got great workers. Everything's fantastic. But during this whole pandemic thing, they're missing the mark. Drake Maverick cringe. They are using his heartfelt, unless it's a work, which
now I'm almost wondering the whole thing was a work to begin with. He probably wins this damn thing.
If it's a work, like that video where he was crying, if that was a work, I'll stop watching NXT forever.
But let me ask you this question. Why? Because
okay, if he was in on it. Okay.
Well, hang on. You know
right,
what?
because we all have sympathy.
Everything that it's stupid to do that. Yeah, you're right.
No, if Drake Maverick said we're going to do this and that way we'll generate some buzz, dude, fuck off. Because how many people were heartbroken seeing that video, thinking that you were really in hard times and you're not, just to get a push? Fuck you. You don't need it that much. You're out. I'm done with you. But anyway, just they've been playing off of it, and
You're right. You know what? Okay, yeah, wow. That'll actually, it will. Ooh, wow. We may actually have to quit doing Wednesday Night Wars. And let's just talk about Dynamite.
Right. Damian Priest got buried.
Yep.
They were building him up to be this badass, and he lost. Okay. That was worth it. You could have saved it on that one. El Phantasma, I'm let down by. For his first match, he almost killed somebody twice. Not very impressed. The Gargano and Candice LeRae yet. That was interesting. It was kind of crazy.
It's all right. It's not like, it's okay.
My favorite thing, though, I think has to be Dexter Lumis tagging up with Velveteen Dream. I don't even remember who Velveteen Dream was tagging with in the beginning, but Velveteen, it ends up being a 2-on-1. Velveteen is getting beaten down, and then all of a sudden, Dexter Lumis' crazy ass just comes out, stands on the apron, grabs the rope, or the tag rope, and extends his hand. It was beautiful. Loved it.
See, but my point is, you are wasting it. Can you imagine that pop of what the crowd would have sounded like if he came out? The guy that's always dead eyes, we don't cheer for him. He's really creepy looking. All of a sudden he comes out, extends his arm to Dream, which everybody goes nuts for.
Right.
Would have been so cool, man. Nope. You wasted it because you feel like you have to throw out fucking TV right now, which, again, we said it, Fox and USA and everybody said, we're not going to fucking charge you or anything if you don't produce live TV for us.
Right. These are some of the things that I long for, man, is the pop for Velveteen Dream, the pop for fucking, the Revolt if they show up, just those things, like those things, we really need those, and it'll be great when we get it back.
I agree. Shit. So is that all you really had to talk about with NXT?
Well, I think at this point it's time to talk about WCW and the wrestling
business. We're in the wrestling business. That's right. It's time for.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for.
Best there is, the best there was, and the best that there ever will be. Hold 2, arm bar.
Sodas rule. Yeah, they do.
Hold 3, the moss covered, 3-handle family gradunzel.
It's me, Austin. Just when they think they got the answers, I change the questions.
I did it for The Rock.
This week's top topic.
You know something, Mean Gene? John Cena.
Wrestling's not fake.
The Rolex wearing one. Diamond ring wearing one. Kid stealing. Woo. Wheeling dealing. One. Limousine riding. One. Jet flying. One. Son of a gun. Woo.
Sierra Hotel. India. Echo. Lima. Delta. Shield.
If you smell.
The following ranking order and final decisions are a completely bias-based order, based off the Professor and O.D.M. made it. And as always, they like to let you know they have not worked in the business, but have been lifelong invested fans much like you, our listeners. With not only their opinions involved, but with countless amount of hours of research done each week, they make sure to provide proper facts and history to back it up. However, they do know that your opinion may vary from theirs. If there is anything you want to chat about, bring to their attention. If there is something they missed or forgot, or you just want to let them know they are out of their freaking minds, feel free to shoot them a message on Facebook or Twitter, or email them at thetopofwrestling@gmail.com. As always, they do appreciate all feedback and continued support. At the end of the day, they want to make sure that you do see the best of the best before you die. And now, this week's top topic.
We're live here on TNT. I couldn't do it. I was trying to do my best, Tony Schiavone. I'm really not good at impressions. Fuck. That's why you do it every week for us, man. But that's right. We are here talking about WCW. Oh, man. I've been excited about talking about this list because we have not had the opportunity to really just sit back and talk about other promotions. We focused a lot, almost too much, I think, on WWE in our first several episodes. Not by fault. It was just, WrestleMania time, Royal Rumble, things like that. But now we are going to dive into a completely different promotion that some people, when you want to talk about the wars, the original Attitude Era wars, Monday Night Wars, WCW, you're either pro WCW or pro WWE or WWF. For me, I was a WWF guy, but was being, we'll say, persuaded by WCW. One of the biggest things that really got me was obviously the NWO, the beginning of that, but I will never forget watching the outdoor Monday Nitro where Kevin Nash threw Rey Mysterio like a lawn dart, and I remember watching that whole thing. And then to find out years later that cops were called for that situation, for what people were seeing, I'm like, that is so awesome. Like, that's real heat, man. You couldn't pay for that. That's sick. Well, they did. They paid probably all their talent to do that. Anyway, so we are talking WCW. I feel like you can't say it like, actually, you know who made me like saying WCW or kind of like that was, you know who it was? Scott Hall. Who's here to see WCW or the NWO? And when we talk about that, everybody's minds usually tend to go to the NWO era and the 96 to 98, 99 era, and then Vince Russo bending the entire company over with no lube.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of matches from that time period that's going to make the list today, and then some other ones that are going to be making it from the early 90s, maybe even the late 80s. We are going to dive in. We have 50 matches for you. The good news, obviously, with a podcast, it's not like the radio. You don't have to write it all down all at once. You'll be able to back up if you need to, but we feel like this list is something you really should take some time, go through, and check out these matches. To be honest with you, come on, man, it was quarantine. We were off last week. I had a lot of time to go back and watch a lot of these WCW matches, and I actually forgot just how much I miss. Their crowds were just completely different than a WWE crowd, even in the early 90s. Like the early 90s, WWE's crowds sit down and just kind of, but like WCW's crowds were jumping up and down, even in like the little Saturday night main event zone, you know what I mean? Or whatever you want to call it there.
It was those Southern Territory crowds still at that time.
I really,
it was a different animal.
Wish. Man, for as much as I watch Family Guy or I catch a little bit of that, every time I see Stewie go back in time and he gets to choose certain things, if I could just do like a couple of things. One has always been Woodstock. I would love to just go live through that. But to be honest with you, I want to go to a Memphis territory and scream at a real heel. I want to go to, like that old school Southern territory where it is so real that people are like throwing things in the ring. I mean, closest we ever saw was with Hogan, and NWO when that started. But no, I really do miss a lot of that era, and watching that on WCW this past couple of weeks here, I've been very excited, looking forward to this conversation. So let's dive in. A lot of these people we're going to be talking about will make the list multiple times, not just because the company was thin, but some of their stars were just that much of star makers, if you will. You have your Flair, Stings, Dusty Rhodes, all those guys. They were consistent with that company until it went down, a lot of them. Even putting a little bit of almost too much trust behind people like Vince Russo and the powers that be. But we start out right now at number 50. There's not going to be an honorable mention this week. We're going to go right in, number 50, which is a street fight Falls Count Anywhere match. It was actually labeled as both, but it comes from Super Brawl 1993. Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, taking on Cactus Jack. So this is pre-ECW Cactus Jack, so this is definitely he's gonna have a lot of good matches even around this era right now, where he'll be facing likes of some of the other guys we just mentioned a couple minutes ago. This is early Mick Foley, and
good matches
not
with
many people,
Vader.
Yes, one of them may even pop in there at some point. It's funny how many people didn't know who he was until he was Mankind in WWE, and I will fully take that shame. I was that guy. In 96, Mankind was brand new to me. I didn't know who he was.
Sure.
Until I started doing a little, I got smarter, we'll call it.
Yep.
To go back and see the changes of Cactus all the way to Mankind and to Dude Love and everything. Timeless character, man. The guy, he's a legend. So good match, by the way. I actually purposely was like, all right, well, even though we have it at number 50, let's see where we go with this and, why it's there. And it's a good match to start with. Number 49. Now, this is, you want to talk about some old school hardcore or WCW wrestling. matches. Raven's Rules for the U.S. title, uncensored, 1998. Raven versus DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, and Chris Benoit. You're talking about just 3 workers that can be as stiff as they want to be. They could be as athletic as they want to be. This, to me, I mean, we're talking 1998. This is probably the last good run that WCW is seeing. So at this point, probably one of the very last good U.S. title matches as well. I popped pretty hard when DDP won the U.S. title from, I want to say it was Kurt Hennig at Starrcade 1997. So in this one, I'm pretty sure he is defending the title against Raven and Benoit. Number 48. You want to talk about a who's who, and it's on a Saturday night's main event type show. I forgot. It was just WCW Saturday night, not main event. I apologize. It was WWE. But on a Saturday night in November 93, you had Vader teaming up with future Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin, just Steve Austin here, against 2 of the 4 horsemen, the most original, if you will. You have Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. On just regular TBS TV, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just goes to show that back then you had to really pay attention. It's funny how many of our matches table actually come from just free cable TV. Some that you may not even, you'd be shocked that we're actually just giving away for free. Number 47. Now, this guy I was a huge fan of as soon as I started watching his stuff. I mean, just his technical wrestling. I just saw some stuff with him versus Dean Malenko, but I am talking about Steven Regal taking on Larry Zbyszko in a TV title match, again, on a Saturday night. And this is May of 94. I specifically actually remember this match. This is, I was always chiming in every now and then when I could into to Saturday night when I would catch it on TBS if maybe something else wasn't on, or I was just kind of scanning through and I forgot it was on because we didn't have that guide like we have nowadays or the internet. But I actually do specifically remember this match. It was actually one of the very first times I was introduced to Steven Regal. I had a Larry Zbyszko action figure.
Of course you
talk
did.
about, oh man, Zbyszko was the man. Living legend. Number 46, we have Steve Williams. That's right, Dr. Death. Steve Williams and Terry Bam Bam Gordy taking on Barry Windham and Dustin Rhodes for the tag titles, which is on, again, what show you want to guess it was?
Saturday night, man.
Jesus, man. Wow, you're really quick today. All right. Yes, it was in October of 92. We've talked about Barry Windham and Dustin Rhodes before.
Oh, yeah.
That was a team that it was almost like the mentor and the student, if you will, because Barry had definitely some time in the company already for sure. Been working with the likes of Dustin's dad for many, many years. So them working together as a tag team I always liked, which I really, really, really wish they did that with Hangman Page and Dustin. I thought it would have just been a great homage to his past and just kind of paying it forward, if you will. I was really hoping that's what they were going to do, and they kind of started it.
Only if they came out to the Fabulous Freebirds music.
Nah. Actually, it would have been perfect just to come out to Adam Page's music.
Well, yeah. That's why they're Freebird.
Whatever. So,
for the only time
man, you know what's funny is that we're talking, 2 of the we talked about these guys already a couple of episodes ago when we talked about the Dark Side of the Ring, and both guys that passed away, one kind of domino affecting to the other. We are talking about on Nitro of 1995, in October of 95, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit tied it up. And at this point, I mean, Benoit, a part of the Four Horsemen, Eddie's really just kind of getting into the company, really starting to find his mark. He is nowhere near to that heel full-blown credibility at that point, but it is their first national TV match together, which is pretty big because, especially after watching the Dark Side of the Ring, I find it so funny that this is their first national TV match, but when they were working in I believe it was in Japan together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Vicky was like, Eddie was calling home, this guy's a prick. I don't want to work with him anymore. Like, he's hard working. He's like too stiff in the ring. And I'm like, they become best friends, which is so cool. And then they have, their first national TV match together, which is awesome. Number 44, another legend, one that everybody still talks about to this day, the Great Muta. I feel like anytime anybody spits anything out of their mouth, that is the man. That's the guy.
Yeah, I love Muta. I remember, and the thing is, his run in WCW was not very long. I only think it was a couple years.
I would say, I was just going to say maybe about 18 months-ish, something like that.
Yeah. You're about a year and a half. Great feuds with Flair, with Sting, Arn, a great run-in. Like, that was the major era I was watching WCW, and Great Muta and Arn Anderson together. Great match.
Well, that's funny you say that. But, it's funny you say that because that's what number 44 is Muta versus Arn Anderson. And this is Arn Anderson's returning time because he just came back from WWE, where he was over there with the Brain Busters. Their contracts were done. They came back to their roots. They went back to the Four Horsemen. Well, obviously, Arn really did. And at this point, Muta is a 6-month reigning TV champion in this match. Again, Power Hour in 1990. Power Hour is another one of the, I'd say, sister shows or sub-shows to things like Saturday Night at that point, because we didn't have Nitro. I would say Saturday Night was probably the more consistent TV shows. Your second step up, or your next step up, would be your Clash of the Champions before your pay-per-views.
Right, you get a little bit of a recap on the storylines, and you get some, solid matches.
And if you're not familiar with Power Hour, we'll say, if you're like a WWF fan, we'll say it's kind of like WWF Mania on Saturday mornings, where you may get a match or two that was a dark match, but for the most part, it's a lot of recaps. Exactly.
Yep.
Number 44, we are talking about really the only match I personally feel, and I think that Brett actually, from what I read, Brett feels the same exact way, in his entire WCW run, and it was against Ric Flair. Bret Hart versus Ric Flair at Sold Out 1998. I'll wait. Tell me another match that you think Bret Hart had that was probably better than that in WCW. Go ahead.
There wasn't one.
Exactly. Because what do we always talk about when it comes to Bret Hart and WCW? What match? Fucking Goldberg.
Yeah, there was the whole, there was Hart versus Flair. There was him getting concussed and knocked out of his career by Goldberg. And then there was the metal chest plate.
Oh, shit. That was a really good...
There was
not a
that
match,
too.
but an awesome moment. I remember
it was basically a fuck you. Oh, this is
so
your guy,
awesome.
huh? Fuck you, I just buried him. I'm out.
It was so cool because I love how they both laid there. And I remember watching that and I go, huh. That's weird. And he pops up, and when he took the jersey off, I remember popping at home. I was like, the man! Because I'm always going to be a Bret Hart fan. I followed him over into WCW when WWE fucked him over. I was pissed off about that, and I was like, well, come on, man, let's see what you do over here. And, of course,
that
they
was
didn't
the best
know what
thing
to
he
do
did.
with the Bret Hart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was awful. It was ruined.
But you're right. That probably was his best moment, and then the match with Flair is his best match. Okay, fair enough. I like that. Number 42, we're talking about some of the originators when it comes to your high-flying cruiserweight matches. When I say originators, these are the guys that really revolutionized what we see today. Rey Mysterio, his name is a part of this three-way dance. It happened at Starrcade 98. Rey Mysterio's name is always highly mentioned. The next name, Juventud Guerrero. Everybody remembers him extremely well. But in my eyes, I think an underdog in the cruiserweight division, someone I feel like WWE could have done maybe just a little bit better with, Billy Kidman.
Yeah, man. I'm fucking with you 1,000%. Love Billy Kidman. So underrated. Never got the time he needed.
Yeah, and started out just having to itch the shit out of his body in the Ravens flock and just look like he hasn't showered in months. I mean, and then when he finally broke out and became a face, it was perfect. It was how you need to do it. You made him a heel long enough where people were almost starting to cheer this guy that looked like he had flies flying around his head the whole time. And
Pig pen.
and you got behind him. And then he had a weird thing with Hogan. That was the only thing I never understood, is how he had a storyline with Hogan in WCW. It almost falls through the cracks in some weird way. But yeah, that we're talking about a three-way dance. We do have Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio, and Hoovy, Starrcade, and that is 98 Cruiserweight title. Now we're talking about at number 41, Fall Brawl, 1994, a 30-minute brawl between Sting and Vader. And I say brawl because this just wasn't one of your normal just big guy versus little guy matches. Vader, this is, again, one of the matches I actually had the chance to go back and watch. He threw him around like a rag doll throughout the whole match, beat the crap out of him, but he also had Sting had some great offense coming in there as well. But this isn't for a world title. You know why? Because at this moment in time, Flair and Hogan are on top as the world champs and doing stuff in WCW. Your diehards like Vader and Sting, who have been there for so long. No wonder Vader ended up leaving to go to WWE not too long later, but you put those guys lower in the card, and I think you gotta say to them, to both Vader and Sting, they're like, yeah, let's go out and fuck this whole place up before they even have a chance to get out in the main event. And I couldn't really tell you much about Fall Brawl 94's main event. I do remember that this match was a barn burner. Excellent match. So if you have a chance to watch any of these, I'm going to go ahead and say, I'll say that a couple of times throughout this, but if you can only watch 10 out of these 50, that one I would throw in there for sure, absolutely. Number 40. Now, we just talked about the living legend a couple of moments ago. When he was with the Four Horsemen for a little bit, we had him and Arn Anderson teaming up against Dustin Rose and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I stand corrected. I apologize. This was not. This was wrong. It wasn't Four Horsemen. This at this moment is around the beginning of Paul Heyman's Dangerous Alliance.
Yes.
Which I still we put it in our top 50 stables. Man, that's one of the best stables ever. I loved the Dangerous Alliance. You had legends in there, and you had rookies when you had everybody from Steve Austin all the way up to someone like a Rick Rude and all those guys in there. Luke, it was awesome. But here's another match again. This is at Clash of the Champions. Clash of the Champions was pretty cool. It was a good concept. It was kind of it was their counter to WWE's Saturday Night Main Event, right? Your 4 to 5 times a year free pay-per-view on TV, if you will.
Right.
And, Clash may be coming back in here a couple more times before this countdown is over. Number 39, at Super Brawl 93, another great fast-paced match between Chris Benoit and the former Flash Funk, Too Cold Scorpio. These guys can go. I mean, these guys are, they could go a cruiserweight style match or a hard-hitting match. I think Too Cold actually doesn't get enough credit. I'll actually say that. When it comes to wrestling, he was fucking great in both WCW and ECW. WWE got him, and they're like, dance.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's weird, man. And it's like that they did the worst thing they could have with him, man, because he could really go. They totally buried him. Absolutely. And this is actually a great match, man, with Benoit. Look at WCW didn't just say, all right, well, we need someone. Where's Brooklyn Brawler? You know what I mean? They weren't just looking for anybody. They needed a good opponent for Benoit. We're talking, this is 1993. This is very early in Benoit's career. So they weren't just putting anybody against anybody here. They wanted to showcase for a reason on the pay-per-view. And these guys had a classic match. And Benoit actually enters in at number 38 as well, as he took on, at Starrcade 95, Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yeah, so, we're on to beer number 2 already. So I actually just watched this recently, maybe a couple months ago, like right around when quarantine started.
Mm-hmm.
This opened Starrcade 95.
It did.
This was the WCW versus New Japan pay-per-view, which was hard because there wasn't really any storyline, but individually as matches, there were a lot of great matches.
What was our world title match that night?
It was Savage
That's right. It was. Okay.
I forgot
All right.
I forgot who fought Savage. I forgot who.
For a moment, I thought it was the year that Hogan took on Beefcake, but that was the year prior.
No, and this fucking. There was a moment where Savage cuts a promo backstage. I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, but Savage cuts a promo backstage with Mean Gene. One of Savage's best promos. He was just batshit crazy. It was great. But this opened the show. And the one thing I noticed when I watched it is like, wow, the crowd just didn't seem to care that much. And I think it's one of those things where at the time people didn't realize what was happening in front of them. Chris Benoit versus Jushin Thunder Liger. And in Japan, they probably saw that a million times already anyway.
Sure.
But for us, like, this was a special match, man. And they went at it.
It is a flat fan crowd, if you will. And I think one of the reasons is sometimes, and I've been there, man, when you go to a big pay-per-view, sometimes you're conserving energy, too. You know that you have a long night or you have, like, big matches later, so the first one you're like, cool, let's just take it in and see how the first one goes, you know. But then sometimes your opening match just wows the shit out of you.
Right.
I mean, some of my favorite matches, as I've gone back and thought about it, some of my favorite matches of all time are actually openers. Just an example, SummerSlam 2002, Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio tore it up. This is another great opener. We talk about Flying Brian versus, wasn't Jushin Thunder Liger on Nitro.
On the
first opening
Nitro.
match,
Yep,
right?
absolutely. Great
my
match,
point
too.
is that opener matches, for some reason, I feel like they're like, all right, well, you want me to be the curtain jerker? I'm making this. I'm going to get them pumped up.
Yep.
I mean, it's no different than not a pre-show band. What do you want to call it? The opener band or opening band or whatever, right? You got to get this crowd into it, man. Make them already jump. Don't make them feel like they're all in lull before the next band comes out. Get their blood pumping. Same kind of thing. And if you got the right guys in there, which we're talking Benoit and Liger, yeah, you should have been able to get that going, but it was the crowd. I think it just might have been the crowd where it was, but no, it was an excellent match. Very, very good match. And like you said, one that's probably been seen a million times in Japan. Now, up next, you want to talk about two stiff workers. This is two of my favorite stiff workers, actually, when it comes to hard-hitting matches. Fit Finlay against Steven Regal from Uncensored 96. I mean, it's just two Matt Classic technicians going at it. A lot of reversals, a lot of counters, a lot of submission moves, but also hard-hitting chops. Great match between both guys. Definitely worth a shot to see. At number 36, we have what we've talked about before. These guys what they kind of were the undercard or mid-card, if you will, to the Hogan and Flair. At this time, we have the King of the Cables finals in 1992's Starrcade, Sting taking on Vader. This match, I think, is pretty popular, or at least commonly seen either through multiple WCW type compilation DVDs or whether it's something that you would see on WWE Network. But this is a great match. Of course, King of the Cables Championship Finals. And that is Starrcade 92. And you know, we're talking about Sting. Again, you know, the guy is just, of course, he's going to be a big part of this list because he was WCW, the man that never left and had just match after match and just kept working his ass off unless he was sitting in the rafters. But we're talking about Sting versus Cactus Jack at number 35 at on the Worldwide 1992 television show in a submit or surrender match. They had a series of these matches that happened, basically kind of an I Quit match, if you will, where it's just a really hardcore falls count anywhere almost type match where you submit or you surrender. And this really got to show Sting's, I guess, harder hitting side or his hardcore match side because he was more of the mat technician in the earlier years as we would see him against Ric Flair and the other Horsemen and things like that with Luger. But against Cactus Jack, you're going to see him really get tested in this match. Coming in at number 34, this is actually the first time I have ever watched either of these men at this point. It was Great American Bash, 1996. That's when the Outsiders are there and letting everybody know that at Bash at the Beach, we're coming around. We're gonna have a third member. We're ready to go. And I think at Great American Bash is when they also put Eric Bischoff through the table. But earlier in the night for the Cruiserweight Championship, Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio Jr. Yes, it's all written in here as Junior on all of these, and it's funny that WWE dropped Junior. They're just like, nope, you never had a father. But this is the very first time I watched either of these guys. One of my favorite moments, it didn't actually make this list, but because it wasn't as good a match as this one, but was watching Rey Mysterio win the Cruiserweight Championship on Nitro with one of his roll-up Hurricane Radas where he had both feet held and Dean Malenko couldn't get out. That I remember watching that on Nitro. It was huge. And this match, but I feel like it was a much better back and forth, and Rey Mysterio did come up short at Great American Bash, only leading to the eventual win, but that's what you wanted. It was a great build, a great story, because Dean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holds, Mysterio just couldn't get that win over him, and then they got the shock win on Nitro, which I thought was a better move, actually. But then after that, we are talking at number 33. I said this is the top 50. This is kind of, the number might be skewed, if you will.
Yeah, a little liberties taken.
A little bit, but we're going to call it, because we both had trouble deciding where each one would go, because each one brought something different to the table, but we're going to give it the entire trilogy of Macho Man Randy Savage and Diamond Dallas Page. It made DDP. He credits pretty much his entire big push wrestling career-wise was everything he did with NWO, but especially Macho Man. Their matches, those were some hard-hitting matches. I liked watching Macho when I was, watching him in WWF, and I'm like, yeah, you can go in the ring and everything, but they never really let him go in a hardcore sense other than that stupid crush match at WrestleMania 10. He looked like a badass in these matches against DDP, and you have a badass Liz by your side, and then also Kimberly Page gets involved throughout this trilogy. Awesome matches, and these happened all in 97. It was a good year-long feud, and if I'm not mistaken, if you go back into probably, things like, I don't know, what would it be called, the PWI rankings, this had to be either top 2 or top 3 feuds of the entire year. 97, next to Hart and Austin, or maybe Hart or Canada versus America. I gotta say that probably your biggest thing was going to be Savage and DDP. Sting and Hogan could have been a third, but it was kind of a crap letdown, as we all know.
Yep.
But we have Spring Stampede, which was a no DQ match. Then they followed up at Great American Bash 97, and then one more time in a Las Vegas death match at Halloween Havoc 97. And he talks about the very first time he hits that diamond cutter and actually gets to get the pin on Macho. He said he'll never, ever forget just thanking him right there on the spot. And he feels like that's what made his career and made him who he was. And great matches. That to me is the good Nitro era, man, or the WCW era that was really competing with WWF at the time, man. That was the stuff when you're watching DDP versus Savage and the crowd is going absolutely apeshit. Hard to not pay attention to it at that time.
Right.
Talk about another big moment of a man finally winning that world championship. Number 32, Sting defeats Ric Flair for the world championship, the big gold belt, at Great American Bash 1990. And we know not too long later we're going to see Flair kind of take a hike anyway and head over to WWF.
Yep.
But yeah, this is when Sting finally gets his big world championship belt win against the Nature Boy. They had a big series of matches. We may even possibly talk about another one. Who knows? Number 31. This is just a freaking all-out brawl between Terry Funk, who we know is crazy as shit, versus Tully Blanchard, who we know can have a hell of a hard-hitting barn burner type match. They squared off at Slamboree 1994. A brawl. That's all I can really say. I feel like that's anything you really ever say about any Terry Funk match, but But he makes them interesting. Not one Terry Funk match could really ever let you down. When you start watching it, you're like, man, he's really old. I mean, he may die on that next punch, and then he comes right back at it. Now we're at number 30. We're starting to fly through them pretty good here. You know, you don't look like you've had to get up and take a piss yet there, ODM. That's good. Coming at number 30 is a 2 out of 3 falls match, and it was a 6-man match. It's a fallout from War Games in 1992, and this match went nearly 30 minutes on Saturday night television. It is Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Larry Zbyszko, which is Dangerous Alliance, taking on Dustin Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat, and Nikita Koloff. Again, this is the fallout from War Games, and again, this is...
War Games!
War Games!
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Really? I mean, why wasn't Regal saying it for years before
know,
that,
right?
man? They didn't test that out in
It's
WCW?
the old man voice. It's the old man voice. You had to have the age. I think if you look at the names in this match, that tells you everything you need to know.
Legend after legend, man. Like, in each one, you're like, wow. As you say it, and you're like, damn, that seems like it's a pretty good match. What pay-per-view was that? On a Saturday night?
Yep.
Oh, cool. So it was probably a quick schmoz? No, 30 minutes, man. Actually, it was a great match. 2 out of 3 falls. 2 out of 3 falls in a 6-man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
WCW liked to do 2 out of 3 falls. I liked that about them. Number 29, you're going to get very few. Well, probably this is the only one you're going to see of this guy's name anyway. But and we're not talking. This is a very, very classic match. But when you say all-time greatest matches, you'll never ever forget the moment Goldberg defeated Hulk Hogan and watching the Georgia Dome. I've never seen a crowd ever light up like that ever since. I mean, really, an entire crowd going that nuts.
Yep.
And they gave it away on Monday Nitro. They could have
saw it.
sold
I remember.
every pay-per-view. Yep. Yeah, well, I did too. July of 98, man. And it's funny to me because it was, at this point, they're building towards Rodman and Karl Malone and all that other shit going on, and it was almost like Goldberg was just going to get handed the title because it didn't matter if Hogan had it at that point.
Right.
Now, Goldberg heading into this is the U.S. champion. He's undefeated. And J.J. Dillon announces the match just on Thunder fucking 4 or 5 days before. That's it. That's all we had as a heads up. Again, I remember how heavily people bought Starrcade 97. It's finally it, man. Sting is going to wrestle. If you just promoted for 1 month the undefeated Goldberg taking on Hogan in the Georgia Dome,
could have
probably
made
would have been your
money.
greatest. You know what? Maybe even a bigger turning point on against WWE. Who knows? I'm just saying, giving that away for free for no reason in the middle of July in the summer when who knows if people are even able to pay attention because of vacations and all that shit. But yeah, I mean, especially at that point, because we didn't have DVRs. You had to set your VCR if you knew what you were doing. But Goldberg ends up winning, and I'll be honest, it's one of my favorite pops of all time. And I my favorite person in the entire thing, Bobby Heenan. Bobby freaking Heenan. The whole time he's like, hit him, your career's on the line. And then he goes, if he lifts him, the crowd's going to go nuts. And just hearing him the whole time, he was awesome. He's like, he's 127, 128. It doesn't matter what he is. He's freaking undefeated, the first in history. The only time Heenan is full-blown face.
Right.
And I mean like full-blown hardcore, like cheering for a good guy. It was... I like it. It was hearing him saying that part, your career's on the line, pal. Love it, man. It was just a great moment. It's a good match. If for nothing else, just a good moment to get a little bit of chills.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to seeing him end Hart's career.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in 1994, you want to talk about someone who was really helping elevate someone they knew who was going to be a big star.
Well, yeah.
And I'm going to talk about that person a little bit more in a moment about that. But we're talking for the U.S. title at Clash of the Champions 28. You have Stunning Steve Austin taking on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Steamboat knows they have a star on their hands, and he has already done so much in the business. Does he need to necessarily work with a mid-carder technically at this point with Steve Austin? No, he could probably have fought his way to being up at the top if he had wanted to. But he got to work with Steve Austin. I think that elevated Austin's career. And the thing is that that's not the only time Steamboat's done that selflessly. You know, he did come back for a little bit of a fun run in 2009 with the whole Jericho and the Legends thing in WWE, but he's been in Ring of Honor several times. He had some feuds with CM Punk, trying to put him over. A lot of good stuff. If you haven't checked that out, that's some good shit to see.
He had a lot of.
He's just a giving man.
He had a lot of good matches with Stunning Steve Austin.
A huge feud. I think it was almost pretty much a good chunk of '94, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
In that number 27, one of Steamboat's biggest rivals, Ric Flair, teaming with Arn Anderson to take on one of the guys we just talked about, Steve Austin, with his tag team partner Brian Pillman, forming the Hollywood Blondes. And this is another Clash of the Champions match. That's right. You can't. You can't.
Yeah, I know.
You can't hear what you're doing right now, but
they can't see it.
But he is doing the movie camera hand signal over here. But that's right. We have the Hollywood Blondes taking on Flair and Arn Anderson in a 2 out of 3 falls tag team title match, and that is Clash of the Champions, and that was 23. Good match. I remember this one. This is on, if I'm not mistaken, Austin's DVD. One of Austin's DVDs for sure, and possibly, I want to say, Flair's DVD that WWE has produced. It's that good a match. Very, very good match. Again, I mean, all 4 are legends, one way or another. Gone too soon, of course, obviously, Brian Pillman. I feel like I always wonder if he just didn't pass, where he could have been in those wars throughout the rest of 97, 98, and 99. With his mouth and the way he could have talked on the mic, holy shit. Could have been some really cool stuff, but, we had to move on, unfortunately, with that one. I don't, one thing I got to say, I don't know if I'll ever get to say this. I don't know if I'll ever say this, but it always pissed me off that WWE exploited Pillman's wife on air, like, the day after. They interviewed her with a video crew at her house one day after they found him. They announced it at Bad Blood, the pay-per-view, and then do a full interview with her crying. I'm like, this is awkward.
Yeah. Not needed. But
yeah, it wasn't like good TV. I'd rather see the one when Austin was going into his house and trying to shoot him. That's actually a little better TV, sadly. Another, 2 good friends having a great match at Fall Brawl 97, Cruiserweight title. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho. This is now Eddie. He's full heel. He's officially a heel in WCW. And this is the first time we're seeing it, which is great. He's starting to grow out that really slick, disgusting, greasy mullet that he had going there. But the dude was, even as little as he was compared to some of the bigger guys, was always jacked, man. He was always in good condition. I really like the story of him, to be honest with you. Redemption, to be honest. When it comes to the whole, he was, his book and his DVD, Cheating Death and Stealing Life, he died, you know what I mean? Like, almost, like, with all the overdoses and things like that. He had multiple problems. WWE saw the good in him and pushed him as a star he really should have always been pushed in WCW. Really glad Eddie got that run because it was well deserved.
Hell yeah.
WCW treated him like shit towards the end. In the beginning here, I feel like they had really good faith in him with the Cruiserweight title and U.S. title champion at one point. But they just didn't have the full-blown trust behind him.
Sure.
Unfortunately. It had to make the list, I guess, but, something that really rebooted WCW in the new era, or to make it a new era for them, was in 1994. The match that never took place 2 years prior at WrestleMania 8. We finally are getting Ric Flair versus the immortal Hulk Hogan. That's right, it's his first big official match in WCW. Shaquille O'Neal is in his corner because why not? But yeah, here we go. We are officially kicking everything off. We know Nitro is going to begin soon. And we got Bash at the Beach, and Hogan finally dethrones Ric Flair. Again, something that WWE could have done years ago and made some good money. I don't know how well they did money-wise when it comes to Bash at the Beach 94, but I bet you they made more than WWE did for that WrestleMania 8.
Yep.
There has to be at least. Coming at number 24, one of my favorite moments of all time. You want to talk about watching a man know that he deserved the moment when you see how he reacts to winning the championship. Ron Simmons. Damn.
Stole my
Vader.
thunder.
I have to, man.
Damn.
Knowing you were probably going to do it in sign language like your last couple of things. But again, free TV, main event, 1992, a very historical win as we have the very first ever African-American world champ. We are talking about Ron Simmons dethroning Vader. That power slam to the pin and watching Ron, I can literally close my eyes right now. I can see him jumping up and down the ring with his purple tights where his hands are hitting the mat and his knees are jumping up and down. It's just great moment because you know he deserved it, man. He was a part of Doom. You know, he's a tag team specialist, but they know he's a big monster who could go.
Yep.
I love that they made him a champion. It's really cool. It was
dude's a legend.
Putting faith behind someone. Absolutely. Well deserved. I hate that he went in
oh God, the helmet. The
my
powder
God,
blue helmet.
That's when he first came over. I was like, "Wait, what?" I mean, it's almost as bad as the polka dots. It's
like
almost
literally, somebody's teenage kid had a Dremel tool and like a big block of foam, and they're like, "I'm gonna carve this out with my Dremel and I'm gonna spray paint it baby blue." And they're like, "Very nice, son. I'm gonna take this into work." Work was the WWF, and it went on Ron Simmons' head.
And then there was also the infamous rib kick on the very first night there with him and Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah. Ahmed
yeah, that was a weird way to come into the company.
We'll have a podcast episode about Ahmed Johnson.
I wouldn't mind that. We could do a whole... Oh, man, I don't know. We may not agree on certain things. Coming in at number 23, he was in the last match we just talked about, and, of course, he's in this one as well. Great American Bash, 1992. Vader. It's the arrival of Vader, and Sting is defending his world title against him. We're talking that big mask that has the smoke
the helmet
coming
with
out
the
of
smoke.
it.
God damn, I love that.
It's the arriving Vader, and it's
hell yeah,
a big moment for a very big heel who was treated like a monster. I mean, it was done well with what they did with him in WCW. Unfortunately, I guess time had come, or maybe contract time or whatever, once Hogan and everybody got over there. Not sure, whatever that case was. But when he came to WWF, it looked promising at the beginning. You know, he's paired with Jim Cornette. He takes out Gorilla Monsoon. And he just starts facing Shawn Michaels. And if you listen to Corny talk about that's enough said.
So goddamn, what was it, 3 restarts?
3 restarts in at SummerSlam, yep. And only for it to go over the way it did. And if you hear about it, man, Corny says, he made poor Leon cry.
Yeah.
And because he was saying he's working too stiff. Listen, you pussy. You say nobody could do what you do in the ring, blah, blah, blah. Get thrown around. You know what I mean? Like, he's taking hits. Everybody's taking hits. You're saying he's too stiff? The dude has been all over the world. He is beyond what you fucking are. Absolutely. He should have dropped the title to him. They dropped it to Psycho Sid, which was worse.
Ugh.
I actually think replace Psycho Sid. Now, if let's say Vader didn't win that title, he didn't at SummerSlam, but let's say Sid won that title at Survivor Series instead. The following WrestleMania was where Undertaker ends up winning the world title. Think about Undertaker versus Vader, right? It could have been monster versus monster. They could have just went that way.
That would have been
Shawn Michaels fucked him over.
Yep. Oh yeah. There's no doubt about it. When I rewatched that match, it was cringy. It was.
You get more pissed off every time.
Yeah. You could tell it was just Shawn Michaels being a bitch. I hate to say it, but it is what it is.
It's annoying, very annoying. Another match that's actually making its way back into the to our rankings today. Another Ravens Rules match from Sold Out 98. It's actually another match from Sold Out 98 because we talked about Bret Hart and Ric Flair from that pay-per-view. But in this one, we have Raven going one-on-one with Chris Benoit in a no DQ flock at ringside Ravens Rules type match. So you know it's just a hard-hitting match with Chris Benoit taking on basically an entire gang of people. And he does. He beats the shit out of everybody in this match. It's basically almost like a training session before your big fight, and they're like, all right, we're going to throw a bunch of guys at you all at once, like the training montage you see in the movies where the heel guy is beating the fuck out of everybody in the basement ring or whatever. That's what's going on right here. But I like how they pushed him here. It was a cool match, and I liked Raven's Rules match. It was cool because it was him. It was his thing, and fucking Johnny Polo, man. I mean, you go from being a manager, Johnny Polo in the WWF, and then you are Raven in WCW and ECW. You become iconic that way. Again, how people are just treated in different companies. It's really weird. Fall Brawl 96. Another two guys that we've talked about a couple of times already. This is Chris Jericho's pay-per-view debut, and he is going against a former foe from Japan, Chris Benoit. Again, not just because I'm a Crippler fan. I'm talking that this, he's just been in that many classic matches. And again, look who he's against. Chris Jericho, man that we still talk about today with the Bubbly Bunch, everything like that. The man is still relevant. Name one other guy on this list that is still relevant and doing anything. And not even just in the business. I mean, sure, if we were to say, oh, geez, I'm looking at the list and really nobody's really involved anymore. Half them are dead. Jesus Christ. Anyway, but Jericho's relevant. I love that he's still going, but I mean, we're talking about 96, 25 years ago. And
Dustin.
This is a classic match. What's that?
Dustin. Dustin's the only other one on this list.
Yes, you are right. That is their name. Thank you so much. I knew there was one. All right.
But still, no Chris Jericho.
Agreed. Better. I'm just kidding. All right. So now that was number 21. One of my favorite matches, believe it or not, of all time on, we're going to talk about free TV matches. It was the Owen Hart Memorial match happening in 1999 between Chris Benoit and Bret Hart. Owen died in May of 99, and a short few months later, Bret's only very first match that he pretty much has when he comes back, and then they kind of start pushing him towards world title, and that's the end right there. But his first match back against Chris Benoit in a classic match where this is one of the first times anybody in a WCW crowd in years has really had the opportunity to actually see a wrestling match. Because at this point right now, everything is a schmoz. Everything ends with DQ or interference. I mean, that's all WCW was written at this point. These guys went out and had a Canadian Stampede type style match. You know what I mean? That old school wrestling that they grew up on with the Stu Hart, the
Shooters,
the dungeon, the Hart Dungeon, and of course, a very big nod to a brother and a good friend in Owen Hart who had just passed months before. Shame this match can't get the recognition that it should be because of obviously everything with Benoit, because this is actually one of my favorite Bret Hart matches because of just how really it's a great technical, hard-hitting, submissive type match, and you can't put two better competitors in there. Now we talk about number 19. Wow, we're already making our way through. We have Ric Flair taking on Vader at Starrcade 93, which this is Flair's big comeback from the WWF, and it is in his hometown, Charlotte, North Carolina. Big comeback for Flair and taking on world champ Vader. Number 18, we talked about this a couple of times already, definitely a part of our Dark Side of the Ring episode, but we are talking about Kevin Sullivan and Chris Benoit. The Falls Count Anywhere match, Great American Bash 96. Went from the arena to the shitter, back out to the arena.
Yeah.
What a fight.
Craziness.
Honestly, there's really not much I have to even say about that match. I feel like you don't have to say anything, just
go watch it. Yeah.
If
you don't remember it, go watch it.
Yeah, even if you do remember it, go watch it. It's just two guys beating the crap out of each other, literally in the crapper. Number 17. This is a great hard-hitting match, and one of the more scarier bumps, believe it or not, and he's taken some harder and higher ones, but a certain hip toss in this match scares the shit out of me. But we're talking Vader taking on Cactus Jack in a Texas death match at Halloween Havoc 93. They both took some very hard bumps in this match, but it was a very cool concept that kind of like a last man standing match. In this Texas death match, when you're pinned, you have 10 seconds to stand back up. So kind of Iron Man-ish kind of rules if you keep going on, but you just have to stand up before that 10 count. Cool concept. I like that. You want to talk about a huge dream match? Yeah, we're talking about 4 legends. 2 are... They got to be in probably the top 10 tag teams all time for sure. I can't sit here and rank at this exact moment where they would be.
It's got to be close.
Absolutely, because of longevity for sure. But Steiner Brothers, Rick and Scott, taking on Sting and Luger at Super Brawl 1991. This match is one of those moments where WCW knew what they were showcasing, I really feel like, because they gave them ample time to get out there and do what they needed to. They told a great story. Lot of near falls and tag team maneuvers and cutting the ring in half. Excellent match. And again, legends, all of them at once in one big ring. Again, you can't go wrong with those guys. I love talking about all these older guys because we haven't had a chance to really talk about them in a long time.
I know, right?
I'll just let you talk about this next one just because I know you want to say it again.
Well, we got the 4 Horsemen, one of its many iterations. You got Flair, Barry Windham, Sid Vicious, and Larry Zbyszko versus Sting's Squadron. You get Sting, Brian Pillman, and the Steiner Brothers. Again, just look at the cast of the name. Or look at the cast of the name. Look at the names and the cast. But this took place 91 at War Games! I didn't want to just go right into it. I kind of wanted to lead into it. So,
it felt good either way. This one's infamous for the power bomb that went awry as Sid, again, not really a fan of his already, as I've already kind of said that earlier, but goes to pick up Flying Brian Pillman and nearly breaks his head right off of his shoulders as he partially hits the cage on the power bomb and goes right back down to the mat pretty hard on the back of his head. How he didn't die right there, 5 years prior to where he did is beyond me, to be honest with you. Or 6. Number 14. Oh, you even talked about this guy in the very beginning of the show. We got Ricky the Dragon Steamboat taking on Ravishing Rick Rude in an Iron Man match. This is a 30-minute classic, and it happens at Beach Blast 92. There was a period of time where I actually really got heavily into paying attention to a lot of Iron Man matches. I just kind of went down a rabbit hole watching them, and this is a really, really good one. Again, one of those moments where WWE really did not capitalize on Rude the way they really should have.
Right.
At some point, probably should have held the strap, didn't. He spoon-fed Warrior to the entire world, and he was the one that made Warrior from Intercontinental to even World title. I don't care if Hogan passed him the title. Flair is the reason that Warrior was who he was.
Well, I watched the clip that I watched to kind of prime me up for my intro today was actually from SummerSlam 89, which was his match for the IC title against the Warrior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, in WCW, they gave him the chance to really shine, have some really good matches, and show his credibility. Becomes the World International Champion, I believe, having some great matches with Sting, of course, which we've talked about as well with the broken back.
Yep.
Coming in at number shit. Where did we go? Number shit. Where's number
13.
Shit at? Okay. There we go. Yes, that's it. That's right. Okay. Number 13, Lucky number 13. We are talking about a pretty hardcore fight, too, when we talk about Lucky. I guess 13 is the perfect number for this one. No DQ street fight. For a time in the era, this is very pre-ECW, if you will, because you have Cactus Jack and Max Payne taking on the Nasty Boys. When I say pre-ECW, I'm saying mainstream ECW, where they're getting very, very popular and people are seeing this on the norm. This is out of the norm to be seeing in WCW television or even in WWF television, because everything is really character-based with, plumbers and electricians and
pig farmers.
Yeah, so thank you. Oh, Jesus Christ. But a very hardcore match at Spring Stampede 94 with Nasty Boys and Cactus Jack and Max Payne. Max Payne's someone that was really, not really around long, but, in some pretty notable matches, especially with Cactus Jack, as they team together a lot. Coming in at number 12, we have, we were just talking about two of the greatest tag teams of all time, and they've had a lot of tremendous matches with each other, but this one really showcased non-stop tag team technical wrestling, and it happened at Wrestle War 1990. We have the Midnight Express taking on the Rock and Roll Express. Really, it's just two classic teams, and that's what they always were, tag team specialists. These guys didn't break up with each other, and one became the Jannetty to the Michaels, or even the Cass to the Enzo, whatever you want to call it. These guys always were just tag team specialists, and these matches that they had back then was the epitome of what we really love as tag team wrestling, I think, and what we want to see in guys like Revival and Young Bucks and things that. Just solid tag wrestling. So we make our way into number 11. Ric Flair taking on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on Saturday night in May of 94. It's past their feud. This is past, that big trilogy they end up having.
Yep.
But they end up having a classic on Saturday night just for no reason. There's really no storyline to this match either.
The thing is, if you ever see Flair versus Steamboat, just watch it. Don't question it. Just watch it.
Any one of them. Any one of their matches. Doesn't matter which match you're about to see. Ric Flair, one of my favorite matches with him. He has several that I like, but his feud with Terry Funk absolutely is my top feuds when it comes to Ric Flair. And that's him and Terry Funk taking to the limits at Great American Bash 1989. Two legends, again. Most of these matches, especially the last 10, we're not going to have to say much about them. We're just going to say them because they all speak for themselves, and you all know that. But that's a great match between two absolute Hall of Famers and legends. I don't even know if Funk is a Hall of Famer, but I don't know who really is a Hall of Famer anymore because I think it's kind of a bullshit club, if you will. So that's just my opinion. But, we talk about that. Let's bring it back one more time for one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Chris Benoit, taking on Dean Malenko at Hog Wild 96.
Yeah. Again, look at the names. Watch it.
Right. But these guys are in the Horsemen together. And they're having a match where they explode against each other in a 30-minute classic. Just watch it. You can't go wrong with both of those guys. Up next, we have a brutal strap match at Super Brawl 1993. Brutal. This is one of the very first strap matches I actually ever watched. And this is Sting taking on Vader. How many times have those two guys been against each other in this list? They just had a lot of great matches against each other. Strap match, again, Vader could take some hits, man. And Sting ain't no pussy like Michaels, and this really shows what Vader could have been as a monster, really, in WWF. They really lost out. As much as we keep going through these matches, you realize how much of a icon Vader really was and how he really didn't get to do what he could have.
Absolutely.
I guess living up to potential.
Yep.
Number 7, Super Brawl 1992. We talked about these guys opening up Nitro, but they also had a match where they kick-started not only the pay-per-view, but it also kind of kick-started Pillman's career and the Cruiserweight division in WCW. We're talking Super Brawl 92, Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger. Watch it.
Yeah.
That's what you're just going to do after each one.
I got nothing. Watch it.
Number 6. This man hasn't really made his way into the list as much other than tagging with Sting earlier, but this is Lex Luger taking on Ric Flair at 1989's Starrcade. If Flair gets DQ'd, he is going to lose the title to Lex Luger. Watch it. And, this is a good one. Sting and Cactus Jack. Falls Count Anywhere Beach Blast. 1992. Foley has credited this to being one of his best matches of all time, especially in WCW. I totally agree. Again, Sting, he was an all-around wrestler, man. He can go anything.
Told you that's why he's in my
to,
top 10, man.
The more I kind of went through this list, you're absolutely right. He's
the man.
Dude was really very versatile when it comes to just kind of working with anybody.
His friends may have killed Elizabeth, but I mean, that's a whole different story altogether.
Yeah, well, No, I
Watch
had so
it.
many jokes. I just had to bite my tongue. All right, number
Watch
4. Hit number 4, 1992. What kind of game is it?
War Games!
Sting, Barry Windham, Dustin Rose, Ricky Steamboat, and Nikita Koloff are taking on the Dangerous Alliance. This, to me, is one of my favorite. It is my favorite War Games
it's
of all time.
another one, man. Just look at the names in that list. It's
It really
insane.
is, yeah. And
they're recurring. They've all been. This is like the 6th or 7th time they've all been on this list. It's insane.
Yep, most of them. And we're talking Austin, Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Larry Zbyszko. Yeah, I feel like we're just repeating names. We could just start cutting and copying into this thing. But that's my favorite War Games match of all time. I feel like it was just the heated rivalry that was there. I feel like it just couldn't be matched to the other War Games.
Right.
Number 3, this is the big match that everybody remembers in the feud between Terry Funk and Ric Flair. I Quit. And that is at Clash of the Champions 9. Very, very long historical feud where Funk tries to break Ric Flair's neck in the process. This I Quit match it's very historical, and I'd say probably one of, if not the most infamous I Quit match of all time. But I don't know, actually, Austin and Hart technically is I Quit as well at WrestleMania. So that's kind of a tough one. But this one's really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Watch it.
It's a coin flip, man.
Now, man, number 2 is actually, I will say, anything past 1995 in WCW. This is my absolute one of my absolute favorite matches of all time in WCW. Halloween Havoc Cruiserweight Championship versus the Mask of Rey Mysterio as soon-to-be Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero, heel, taking on Rey Mysterio, trying to rip his mask off in the process. This is an infamous match. It gets 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. I remember this. Ray's wearing that purple getup and the whole thing, and I loved Halloween Havoc's arena. The whole
Me
looking
too,
like
man.
Halloween. It was just
Loved
cool,
it.
man.
It was the best.
This match, one of my favorite WCW matches of all times. Like I said, this is probably the best Cruiserweight Championship match, I would actually say, in history, really in pretty much any company. Cruiserweight Championship.
Watch it.
Watch it.
And Halloween Havoc should be brought back by WWE. They own the rights. They should bring it back.
Yeah, they should just let other people do it if they're not going to use it.
Actually, I like that idea better, yes.
That being said, we are at number 1. Flew through this list pretty good, but number 1, we kind of lied. We had 53 earlier. Well, now we have 56. Number 1, come on.
Can I say it? Can I say the name of it?
Yes, absolutely. But I just got to say, how could you not have, put this at number 1?
It's Johnny B. Bad versus DDP.
Oh, my God. You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm glad we both have the same one. Soon to be Mark Marrow taking on DDP, and DDP was the former driver at WrestleMania 6 for Rhythm and Blues, and to be coming all that way to face the Booty Man, the man who could he looked like Little Richard, and he had he was a little tutti frutti. I'm kidding. All right, man. Of course, we're talking about the fucking trilogy, man. The best trilogy of all time. And we are going to debate that one soon, we know, because when it comes to Okada and Omega versus
and
Flair
movies
Steamboat.
And movies, too. That's a different story.
Yeah, fair enough. That's very, very true. Star Wars sucks. Anyway, so Ric Flair versus Ricky the...
On May the 4th, no less. On May the 4th, no less. You blasphemer.
Well, when we recorded.
Blasphemer.
Kind of funny.
You're all sodomites and sinners.
That's awesome. Well, May the 4th of you, whatever that shit is. Anyway, but of course we are talking about the greatest wrestling trilogy of all time, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Ric Flair. They have classic matches at, let's see, we have Chi-Town Rumble, we have a Clash of the Champions match, and then of course Wrestle War. really every match is different from the next. I mean, they didn't repeat much, and it was it's the original trilogy everybody talks about, and you can't not put it at number one when it comes to WCW. Again, how many times does Steamboat get in this list? How many times did Flair get in this list? We knew it was going to be that way, probably more than anything, but they're just tremendous workers. And that trilogy, if you can't go through all 50, of course, that's a great way to go. Professor's suggested match of the week. It didn't make the list, to be honest with you, because I don't think it was in the top 50. I'm not going to lie, but it is one of my personal favorites. We are talking Hot Rod, Roddy Piper, returning in a big main event match at Starrcade 1996, taking on NWO's world champion in a non-title match, Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And this is the match where Piper puts him to sleep, and in the cleanest victory, I'm pretty sure the only clean victory I've ever seen, the cleanest victory I've ever seen for Hogan. I mean, even like the Goldberg one had Karl Malone, DDP, and all those guys in there. You know,
even against the Warrior, he kicked out right after 3.
Exactly. This one, he just right out. And I was like, well, that was pretty cool. Very clean win, and I just a huge fan of that one because it was the returning icon. But that's our list, man. That's 57 matches of in a top 50. That was WCW. Next week, what are we doing? What we're going to be doing is our 21st episode is going to be the top 25 of ECW. And I'm talking non-WWE ECW. So you will not be seeing any of the crap that you would see on Sci-Fi. I can promise you that. Even though I would like to see Punk and John Morrison's matches in there, we're not talking about that. We're talking the original ECW. In 2 weeks, we will be talking about the top 25 matches of TNA. The following week will be top 25 of Ring of Honor. Episode 24 in 4 weeks will be the top 10 matches of AEW so far. And in episode 25, our season finale, you are going to hear O.D.M. and the Professor go head-to-head in Promo War. I love that bumper. Sounds so cool. Anyway, man, I had a great time today. Hope you guys did too. Let's see here. You know, before we get off, let's see. Come on. Let's see. Google Play, Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, AIM, AOL CD with 1,000 hours. Did I get them all?
Gross enough.
I used waterfall in a beer the whole time I said that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Top of Wrestling podcast. My name is the Professor. I do bid you a farewell. And until next week, O.D.M. is going to leave us all with 21 words.
This pandemic has the potential to reshape the wrestling world to the levels of when Vince started buying and consolidating territories.
That was way too many to count.
I ain't your friend and you're not mine. This difference helps me cross the line. And every time I'm confronted, I'm unafflicted.